5-minute penalty to Chicago, a game misconduct, and then Manson having words with Steven. And now Butcher gets into it. We're going to have a brawl, folks. Stand by.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Tyler Cash here, coming at you with another episode of Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast. The LA Kings are out of the postseason. The Mexican Pizza is coming back to Taco Bell, and I won my men's league Thursday night hockey championship. Not a big deal. How you doing, my bud?
I'm doing good. I had a weird fight at Chipotle yesterday.
A fight? Like a fist fight?
Like a technicality fight. So I don't know if you knew, but yesterday, like they promoted it with the NHL with like Zegras, where it was like come into Chipotle after 3 p.m. to close. Yesterday, wearing a hockey jersey, and you get buy one, get one Chipotle. So I'm like, perfect. I get lunch, I get dinner tonight, I get lunch tomorrow, which is exactly what I did. So I got to the line, mind you, we're in Southern California, not the most passionate of hockey fans. It's like almost 6 o'clock, right? And there's like 20 people in the store. Nobody's wearing any hockey stuff. In my mind, I'm like, it's like 80 degrees outside still. Let me throw on like a hockey t-shirt. Like it has the logo. It's clearly hockey related. I specifically put this on. I go over there. I order my food. I'm like, hey, I'm here for the promo. Got some shirt. He goes, yeah, 1 second. Let me get my manager to ring it in. Manager comes out of the back and he goes, I don't have to give you this discount. And I said, excuse me? He goes, well, technically the fine print said it's a hockey jersey. Mind you, I literally live 1,000 feet from this Chipotle. And I'm like, do you want me to go home and walk 5 minutes there and 5 minutes back and put on a jersey just so you feel right? He's like, well, technically that's not a jersey. And I'm like, well, technically it's 80 degrees outside. I don't want to sweat. So why are you running a promotion if you're going to really nitpick here? And I told the guy to his face, I'm like, we live in Southern California. How many people are going to redeem this promotion? Like 3? Like, come on. So
was he giving you a hard time because it was a blue shirt?
I had no idea, but he literally just like rolled his eyes, gave me the discount, and like ran to the back. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Pick your battles, bud. Go ahead. Yeah. And we're not asking for guac to be free, even though it should be.
I didn't even get guac on my bowls, mind you. So anyway.
Here we're starting off with some Mexican cuisine because you got this issue at Chipotle and the Mexican pizza's back at Taco Bell. I
might have to make a shift.
I'm fucking hyped. You have to order it through the app, but you can order it and get it like a couple of days in advance. So I'm probably gonna have to have a drunk eat going on later with Taco Bell. But yeah, so I won my men's league last week. Nail biter. We won 1-0. Got down to the last minute literally, and we the other team drew a penalty, so they pulled their goalie. We were skating a man down already. They were just hammering it at all ends of the ice, and it was close, man. I would have lost my shit if we lost it to some bullshit penalty, because it was like, honestly, I think it might have just been a scenario where a guy threw his weight just a little bit too much into the other player while he's trying to get the puck, and it's like, come on, like, we're not intentionally trying to hurt anybody here, but I mean, that's going to happen, especially men's league. Not everybody knows how to skate properly. You know how that shit goes. But either way, longest session of hockey of my life. It was 20 games. I've been playing for 8 months since September. Yeah. And then 3 weeks of playoffs. It was a blast. So shout out to my Thunderbirds crew. Some of you listeners actually came out, which is awesome. We had a good crowd supporting us from the stands. So cheers to you. You know who you are. I appreciate it.
I'm assuming, did you bring that cup? Was that provided? Like, what's the story on that?
Oh, so yeah, I'll go ahead and drop that here in the edit, because I feel like it should be given its proper showing, because this cup is amazing. It's a replica that's probably, I'd say, 3 feet, like 3 feet high, maybe like a 1.5 feet wide. It's legit. It's good. They don't let us take it home, although I might have, considering I work in the building, but I mean, on that one. No, we took it to the local bar. You know, we drank beer out of it. I may or may not have eaten pizza rolls out of it. It was a good time, man. It was fun. It was well earned, well deserved. We went 19-1 in the regular season, but that's not even the most impressive stat, Tommy. The most impressive stat is our goalie went in the regular season 20 goals allowed in 20 games.
Sick.
And then in the postseason, he posted a shutout. So technically, I think it wound up being 22 goals in 23 games. So it was a blast. Get ready to start the next session. I'm amped up. It's gonna be a good time. But in the real world of hockey, we got some pretty intense games going on. We had 5 Game 7s in round 1 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. We obviously had our choices posted on the website and on our social medias. I went damn near perfect. And so I think I went 7 out of 8. You went 6 out of 8. Yeah. We'll dive into that as we get there, but we got a little bit of just, some fun news before we break down round 1 and then give our picks for round 2. Starting with Carolina Hurricanes legend Patrick Marleau has announced his retirement from professional hockey at the age of 42. He played 1,779 games with the San Jose Sharks, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, we're joking. He never actually played a game for the Hurricanes. He was a part of some sort of trade. I don't remember exactly.
Trade and buyout so he could go to the Leafs, I believe, at like league minimum.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, he scored 566 goals, 631 assists. I believe he has still the longest active Ironman. Well, it's not active, but he holds the record for the Ironman streak. Is that correct?
Not Ironman. No, that was Yandel. He has most games played of all time.
Oh, of all time. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, and that's at 1,779 games. Hell of a career. Didn't quite get the raise to the cup. I know that they put up his mitts in the Hockey Hall of Fame for his final game. I believe they even spelled it wrong, or there was a misprint on it. Yeah, it was 107. It was 1,779th was what it was. 9th games. So it was the plural games, but also the 9th. But yeah, either way, hell of a career, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Congrats to him. Yeah. Hurricanes legend, which is fucking hilarious in its own right. He literally was with them for less than a day, if I remember correctly. Well, they bought him out and then he went and signed with the Leafs. But yeah, kind of one of those careers too, where it sucks, where he's a good player, just never got anything to show for it from a team perspective, never won a cup, things like that. But definitely one of the greatest to play the game, one of the more durable ones to play the game for sure. And what's crazier too, is I just looked this up, assuming Thornton comes back next year and he plays 66 games, he'll break Marleau's record. And then I think it's at a point where I don't know if we'll ever see anyone break that record again, quite honestly, because then you're getting into what Marleau played 23, 24 years. And then I think Thornton would play 24, 25 if he breaks it. So crazy stuff either way.
Isn't Zdeno Chara right there too, though? Because I know they were all around the same age.
He's about 100 off. Yeah. He sits 7th all time at 1,680. So he's got 99 games behind Marleau, which probably not happening. Not happening.
He's definitely more of a bruiser. I don't see him staying in the league as long as Jumbo. But honestly, if
also
Joe Thornton
45,
yeah, if Joe Thornton does win the cup this year, why not end it? That's the perfect ending to a career. He ain't coming back next year. But hats off to Marleau. Great dude. We actually met him. He's up at the ice rink every once in a while. Lo got a picture with him. He's a super friendly guy. So kudos to him. Great career for sure. Even though I'm not a big Sharks fan, I got respect for the guy for sure.
Side note, never want to see Thornton raise the cup for what we did David Perron with the concussion. Side note, don't want to get off track.
Hey,
just want to put it out
there.
I
agree with you. You know that I feel like people don't remember how dirty of a player Jumbo is capable of being. And I got to be honest with you. I've been watching nearly every single game of this postseason, and I haven't recognized him once. I haven't seen one thing he's done on the ice. So he's damn near invisible as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he hasn't played the postseason.
Oh, has he been a scratch?
Yeah, he has no stats for this year. So he's either scratch or injured.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah. If I were him, I'd still hang it up if I won the cup anyways. It's the perfect ending of that career. But moving on. The Penguins fans that went viral. The guy that got rejected in game 3 went in for the kiss after the goal, and the girl pushed him off. Yeah, gave him a hell nah. They got engaged. Congrats to them. They went down to the ice probably prior to warm-ups or at the end of the game. I think it was right before was it game 6? Because game 7 was obviously at Madison Square Garden. Kudos to them. I would have thought that they were far from that considering the fact, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the dude reeked of beer and nachos and was belligerent drunk that night. So maybe there's a good reason why she shot him down.
Very possible. But yeah, congrats to them for sure.
So yeah, you were sharing some juicy information, some tea, if you will, about the Arizona Coyotes. Let's talk about this.
Kind of hilarious that so the Coyotes, as we all know, assuming I think it technically has a vote in the offseason, but assuming it gets approved, like they're going to be playing at the new ASU arena there in Tempe that holds like 4,500 people. So I guess it just was voted on or decided on, whatever it was here today, that the center ice logo is going to be the ASU Sun Devil logo the entire year. So for 41 games that the Coyotes would play there, they would even have their home logo on the ice. It would be the trident from the ASU Sun Devils, which is absolutely hilarious. Even more so, there's a good behavior clause. So it allows Arizona State to back out of the deal, quote, if the Coyotes or the owner become the subject of adverse publicity, contempt, scandal, or ridicule, or violating, another quote, widely held principles of public morality, failing to conduct its business affairs with a high degree of integrity and honesty, and or failing to act as a good corporate citizen. Long-winded answer short, pretty much if they do anything wrong at any point, ASU can just pretty much say, fuck it, you're out of here.
Yeah, I mean, insane. It sounds like if the guy walks out on his tab at Applebee's on a Thursday night, half price appetizers are going to come from him. No, yeah. And how ridiculous is it that they had to put that in the clause in the contract? They're more concerned about they're more concerned about their image than the Arizona Coyotes have been. And that's just absolutely insane. And now you said 41 games, right? But assuming they're there for the full 3 years, or what was it, 3-4 years?
Yeah, 3 years, give or take.
They're not going to have their logo anywhere near the ice. What are they going to do? Like have an ad, like the ad that just shows up digitally on the ice?
That's what I wonder. Is assuming it goes well after year 1, they're like, well, how much fucking revenue we brought you? Give us our logo. Maybe they reconsider, but I get for the first year maybe why it's happening. But also, I mean, props to ASU and their organization for just basically saying, like, we're doing you a favor. You're not taking things over here. This is our turf, and you're just gonna deal with it, basically.
And you know what's funny is, those college kids that are playing puck for the ASU, they would be stoked to see the Arizona Coyotes logo underneath them. Like, they would be pumped about that. I mean,
100%.
It's just crazy. Like you said, it's more of a respect thing and making sure that the Coyotes keep up with affairs and professionalism.
Yeah, there's no like way to just redo it real quick. Like thinking like football even or something, you could just like repaint over the surface, but like it's ice. You have to like melt all the ice and move the vinyl and put on new vinyl. Like that's just not realistic.
But I mean, they're still putting it together now. So it was like the decision was made prior to that logo actually being on the floor. They were like, fuck it.
But then also
it's something they thought about.
Is it something where you like do a joint logo, like half and half, like one side this, one side that? You know what I mean? But I mean,
one would think that the NHL would take priority personally, even though they are helping them. It's kind of like if your homie gets kicked out of his house, from his old lady, and you're like, yo, you can stay on my couch and you can use my bathroom, but no number 2s, dude. Do not take a shit in my fucking bathroom. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Like it's like terms that you're helping somebody out, and that you got them on a short leash, if you will. But interesting to say the least. And I mean, we'll see where it goes with hockey as far as the Arizona Coyotes go. It looks pretty grim to me. The fact that they were charging as much as they were for season tickets, and then we're looking at just like regular season games are probably going to be out the ass just to attend to make up for that difference that they're not having those people in the arena. It's a shit show, but it's going to be exciting to say the least. It's definitely some entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, I feel like we should talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs before we get into the whole Crosby situation, because it's just too funny. This stat I had to share with everybody. I put it on the Fourth Line Goon Facebook, tweeted it out. The Atlanta Thrashers and the Toronto Maple Leafs have both advanced to the second round the same number of times since 2004. almost 20 years ago. And I don't even know the last time the Atlanta Thrashers were even in the league. It's been quite some time. Yeah, between that and the one Leafs fan, we also shared that, who lost $779,000 on a bet that would have made him a millionaire, thinking that this is finally it. The Leafs are going to get right over that hump. Oh, man, it's just a rough time to be a Leafs fan, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I was reading something too where the last 6 years they've technically made playoffs. You can maybe not count the bubble when they got kicked out of that first round, but I think I read something where it's like the 5 consecutive years that they've made the first round, and to lose it based on the stats and everything, it's like a 1 in 25 plus thousand odds of that even happening. And of course it's the Leafs, and here we are. So
where do they go from here? That's the question. I saw that Brendan Shanahan, he's the owner, correct? Brendan Shanahan?
I don't believe he's the owner, no.
Or he's like the VP of operations. He's a big suit for sure.
He's like their president.
Okay. Yeah. So I know he said they don't plan on making changes. Basically, he said he didn't want to make changes for the sake of making them, I believe was the quote, give or take a few words. And then when they were interviewing Matthews and Marner, they really honed in on we're right there. We're just right there. But the reality is, bro, they're not talking about making the conference final or the Stanley Cup final and just falling short every year. They're talking about being right there, of just advancing to the second round. Yeah. Where do they go from here as a team?
I don't know. It's like I mentioned to you too, like their top 3 D-men have all sort of no trade, no move clauses. So you got to convince them to leave. Do they want to leave? Who the hell knows? Giordano's out, probably retired, most likely after this year. And, at that point, who are you bringing in? You can't really move your D-men to change things up there, I feel. And then on the forward front, can't move John Tavares, no movement clause. Everyone else is up for grabs, but who makes sense? Like, if you were to trade a Mitch Marner, are you going to get real-time results back, even though you free up $11 million in cap space, basically? Probably not. Are you going to trade Nylander, who's making under $7 million, and as soft as he might have been in that series, he produced pretty well? Probably not. Are you going to move Austin Matthews? Probably not even on the table for any offer whatsoever. It's just like, I don't know what you do. The only thing you can do is change up your depth, really. But again, I don't think the depth was the issue, personally. I mean, it was in terms of maybe not producing, but also the flip side is when it mattered most. Yeah, there were 2 assists from their top 4 guys, and kind of ghosts the whole game 7. So,
and to be fair, that game 7 against Tampa, it was Nick Paul, I believe is his name, that wound up registering both goals for Tampa. So one could argue Kucherov, Stamkos, these guys went quiet too. It was just a hard fought series. I think you mentioned, why blow it up? You were this fucking close to beating the reigning Stanley Cup champs. Like, I mean, don't blow it up completely, but you also said there's not very many changes that can be made. You got these guys with no movements. I'm pretty sure Tavares has a no movement. Yep. Hindsight being 2020, you probably don't make that move again. You're paying this guy what, $9.5 million, and he's aging, and he's not really providing any sort of offensive effort other than just veteran leadership, right? Which that can't be worth all of his paycheck.
I mean, the way I look at it too, though, is like what can you really hang your hat on? Like, you lost back-to-back Cup champions this year. Year prior, you lost the Canadians, who had no business being there, yet they made it to the Cup final. The year prior to that, you got kicked out in the bubble round against the Blue Jackets, which is embarrassing on its own. Then you lost to Boston 2 years in a row. I think both game 7s, which is hilarious in its own right. And then prior to that, they lost to the Capitals. Like, the Capitals back in 2017 were a good team, but they didn't win a cup or anything. I mean, point being is like it's right there, but they've been right there for 6 years and haven't gotten it done. Like, at that point, what do you do? I don't know.
So it appears that the thorn in the Maple Leaf side is not the Boston Bruins, but in fact, just getting out of the first round altogether.
Itself, yeah.
Yeah, you're talking Blue Jackets, Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, the Washington Capitals. It's just basically anybody that can hang with them 7 games. I feel like a lot of Maple Leafs fans knew when they were heading to Game 7, even if it was at home, it wasn't going to look pretty. The odds were definitely not in their favor as far as past experience goes. Yeah, man, it's hard. And I think, isn't Jack Campbell our free agent? Like, they're going to have to sign him now as well, like the goaltender situation. And he's going to want a payday. I mean, that's definitely a tough time, when it comes to being a Leafs fan and dealing with their cap scenario. But you know what? This isn't in our notes, but let's tie it into this whole cap scenario as far as the Minnesota Wild goes. I've been arguing with people online constantly all week about the fact that they have nearly $15 million, as you mentioned prior, that's going to be dead cap next year. So they have to roster an entire team for under $70 million. They have Kevin Fiala, who's, he's underperformed, but he's going to be a free agent.
I mean, he regular season, he was point per game guy. Yeah, playoffs, just not what you wanted from him. But yeah.
Right. And then you got guys like Bukestad and Jordy Ben, who are that they're basically rounding out your bottom 6, right? You need that depth to score. And they're somehow talking about re-signing Marc-Andre Fleury after alienating Cam Talbot, which it's like Cam Talbot went, I'm pretty sure 13-0-3 in his last 16 starts with the Minnesota Wild going into the playoffs. And then as soon as the playoffs start, they go, nah, dude, forget that. You're not our guy. We're going to start Fleury. He has the experience, which is just an absolute slap in the face. And yeah, dude, such a shit show over in Minnesota, man. Like they have already the $15 million from, is it Suter? Yeah, Suter and Parise buyouts.
So next year it's 12.7, and then the following 2 years it's 14.7. So basically, even with the cap going up $1 million next year, they basically have to fit in $69.8 million. That's their cap. That's their ceiling, basically, which is yikes.
Yeah, especially when you're a team that you think you're contending with right now. As you said, I think it was the last episode or 2 episodes ago, you were like, this is their chance.
Like, yeah,
go all in now.
And what's crazy is, like, hypothetically speaking, Fiala's gone. That's $5 million. Laurier and Bukestad are gone. That's another basically $2 million. You're at 7. Jordy Ben's gone. You're at 7.9. Even Fleury gone. You're at 11.4 million. You're still
not there.
Still under the cap, and you want to re-sign Fleury. You can't re-sign Fiala. Who are you moving? Are you moving Kaprizov? No. Are you moving Joel Eriksson? Maybe, but he just signed like an 8-year deal.
Jordan Greenway, maybe he's a $3 million player. But I mean,
he's not going to move the needle. Like the only option I think that makes sense, and you can't do it either, is like you look at their D, Jared Spurgeon, no movement clause. Jonas Brodin, no move clause. Dumba, 10-team, no move clause. Goligoski, no move clause because he's a veteran. Kulikov, modified no trade. And what do you do?
Man, I guess if Dumba only has a 10-team, he's got to have a high cap.
6. It's only 6 for a year, so I mean that's the most likely guy I would think, but
yeah, yikes. They're gonna look completely different next season. That's for damn sure. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about you and me sending tweet after tweet at each other, text after text about this scenario. Basically, multiple sources were confirming that Sidney Crosby had sustained a concussion. We learned now that that's not entirely the case. This was from the hit from Jacob Trouba during Game 5, I believe, right? And he didn't play in Game 6. He returned in Game 7 alongside Yari and Raquel. It wasn't enough to win the series. The Rangers went on to win it in overtime with a big one for Panarin, his third for the postseason, which I want to get to that and talk about how we're finally seeing Gaudreau, Panarin, these players that have been horrible in the postseason in the past, Kaprizov stepping up and finally being these roles that they need. But we'll get to that. The Crosby situation, man, you know where I stand on that. If he was really concussed, then it's hard to understand why you would force him into that game. And I feel like if it was any other team and any other player, people would be losing their fucking shit. Like if the Vegas situation or anybody really, or even Tampa, like a team that's known to win. But I feel like the scenario was pushed because we've learned now that Malkin was lowballed. We learned that Letang was lowballed. We heard that Brian Rust was lowballed. These three players are probably not coming back. And they sat Crosby down and they said, bro, this is our last shot at this core. Do you have it or do you not? Is how I saw it. At the end of the day, though, I guess he was fine. But the real situation that I thought was the wrong call was Yari, right? He limps into the postseason interview and he's got the ice pack. He can barely walk. To me, I thought that was the wrong choice. And if Crosby was really good to go, then so be it.
Yeah. I mean, Yari, for what it's worth, not the issue. Penguins lost by all means, just to make that clear from my perspective too. I mean, Raquel did nothing. Crosby got an assist. But the interesting aspect is like when we were going back and forth on it, the situation that I had was, I don't know why in my mind, maybe because it happened mid-game, game 5. I thought it was immediately, there was, I don't know, what basically left my mind where I didn't realize he didn't play game 6.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like a travel day and then game 7, boom.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're both there because when we were being hot-headed and yelling at each other, basically, I forgot that too.
Yeah.
And you threw that at me, bro. You were like, if that were the case, then why'd he sit out a whole game? I was like, oh fuck, I completely forgot about that. I'm too much of a man to admit it.
And then you get to a point where, you know, it happens. I think it was a day game, I think, for what it's worth, against the Rangers game 5 or early afternoon, whatever, you know, you want to call it. But, you know, we had all that day, the following day, game 6, game 7 travel day, game 7. That's basically 4.5 days to get cleared if he had a concussion or not. But the interesting aspect is there's rumors going around that he was also cleared for game 6. He just had a headache concern, which with his history, you have to watch it. And he was cleared. And from the rumors that are out there, Hextall, who interesting, it's just an interesting dynamic where he used to, you know, be the guy who played for the Flyers. He's now the GM of the Penguins. He was cleared to play, and Hextall said, no, you're not playing game 6. It's not happening. So then, assuming that's the case, had 2 more days to get even more right, play game 7, and still wasn't enough. But yeah, it's crappy that it happened to begin with.
Respect to that. Respect to that, because it's not a good look if you're forcing a player to play concussed. That's just not good. So for him stepping in, that's an awesome way to approach it. I had no idea, and that was my main concern. Was we're trying to build this league up to be better than it was. We had these previous players that are stepping up, saying that they have a hard time even holding a job after being in the league because of these concussions. So you have to take it seriously.
Yeah, and like that's the tricky part too. When it comes to the protocol, like I went fucking pull the protocol to like dude, this isn't the case. It's a situation where, you have to understand that both sides knew what's happening. They updated the concussion protocol, and there's no hard and fast rule. It's not every step 24 hours. This needs to happen. Everything says, well, it should happen in this time frame. Not it has to. Well, he should wait a day before he does this. He should wait a day till this happens. In the regular season, and this is where I think the tweets came out, where it's like there's 2 sides of the tale when it comes to concussion protocol, regular season and playoffs. When a regular season, there's 82 games, you're probably taking a little bit more time to make someone safe long-term versus, okay, we're down 3-2 in a series and we're now down 3-3 in a series. We need to bring him back. You're probably going to not skirt steps, but expedite the process. Not saying that by expediting the process, you were missing anything, but assuming it's followed, the steps are followed, maybe not necessarily in the way that they should be in terms of time frame, and all of the tests from baseline, from physical, are all being good signs, essentially. Let the guy play. He knows the risk that he's taking. Again, I don't think that ends up being the case here, quite honestly. But at that point, if you are cleared and you know the history you've had with a head injury, as crappy as it is to say, Crosby's 35. He probably doesn't have a whole lot of peak hockey left in him, maybe a couple more years. He understands what he's putting himself into. He gets paid to play these games. And if everyone's clearing him, doctors, independent neurologists, it's up to the player. That's how I see it. Because if I remember correctly, like when Perron was out, been to reference like the Joe Thornton hit, I'm pretty sure he was cleared for like a few months. He just never felt right playing. So there's just different dynamics to it always, and you can never predict it.
And they took the extra game off to make sure he's okay with the extra precautions. It makes sense. And how you worded that makes a lot of sense because you have more time, right, during the regular season to evaluate somebody. Kind of like, hey man, take these, call me in the morning. And if you don't call me in the morning, we'll touch base next week. Like we would much rather you be healthy long term. Yep. And in the postseason, it's not that they're being negligent necessarily, but they're keeping more of a close eye on him. Instead of being like, let us know when you feel better, they're probably hitting him up every hour on the hour. Hey, you have a temperature? Are you dizzy? Are you nauseous? How's your equilibrium? Are you able to do this? Like you're right under a microscope, right? Yeah. I mean, that's how I would hope that things are going down. I just was very I was chipping back because everyone was shitting their fucking pants whenever Robin Leonard was riding the Pine Pony whenever he needed an elective, quote unquote, elective shoulder surgery, and people were losing their shit. They're like, oh, they're forcing this player to do something he doesn't want to fucking do. And it's just, it's frustrating, coming from that as a Golden Knights fan. But first and foremost, like I said, I laid it out in the tweet. My first priority is to make sure that these players are healthy. And when you have somebody like Crosby, who is a generational talent, so fun to watch, he's helping grow the sport. He shows up at all the right times. You don't want to see that guy relearning how to tie his skates. That was just my 2 cents. So before we get into our round 2 predictions, we're going to take a pause real quick to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back at it with our round 2 predictions.
Hey now, what's up, goons? Tyler Cash here, and it's time to pause the podcast and chat a bit about our amazing sponsors over at Schlafly Brewing Company. Hockey and beer. Does it get any better? I don't think so. Schlafly has been brewing up some of the best beer I've ever had for many years, and it's officially that time of year for their famous Raspberry Hefeweizen. It's one of my personal favorites. Their Raspberry Hefeweizen distinguishes itself among others in that it's a true fruit beer. None of this fruit-flavored crap. It uses real raspberry in the brewing process. Once the fruit's sugar ferments out, the aroma and flavor stay in, making this a delightful drinkable beer that's not too sweet or tart. It's refreshing and balanced with a natural hazy pink coloring. Because it's low in alcohol, it brings out a smooth dose of weediness, and it's perfect for summer. It's perfect for any time. Download the Schlafly app or visit schlafly.com to locate and devour yours today. That's SCHLAFLY.com. Schlafly Beer. Drink Mo Beer. This podcast is brought to you by 1 in a Million Handyman Services Incorporated. 1 in a Million is a family-run local company that's been serving the Las Vegas, Nevada area for over 15 years. They are licensed and insured throughout Clark County and travel as far as Boulder City, Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas. 1 in a Million specializes in smaller home repairs, but also tackles commercial repairs. They've worked around the Strip, residential homes, commercial buildings, you name it, 1 in a Million has made their mark. With a 4.5-star Yelp review and countless of happy customers throughout the 15 years, you can guarantee you'll be happy with their services. All previous customers can refer an unlimited amount of friends and family for a $25 referral credit, which would come off of any future projects and or repairs if they decide to use 1 in a Million. This offer also extends to the Fourth Line Goon listeners. Mention this podcast and you will receive a $25 referral credit that will come off of the total cost of your repairs. 1 in a Million is open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you can find them on the web at juaninamill.com. That's JUANINAMILL.com, or you can also find them at juan.inamill on Instagram. 1 in a Million Handyman Services won't let you down. Check them out.
All right, so before we get to our round 2 picks of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I feel like we can lump these two bits of information, news as far as the Vegas Golden Knights goes. Their head coach, Pete DeBoer, has been relieved of his duties effective as of yesterday. Some people were shocked. Some people were not. Some people thought it was a long time coming. I'm kind of somewhere in between. I think it's weird that they waited 2 weeks to make this announcement. I thought for sure as soon as somebody like Barry Trotz announced that he was relieved of his duties in the Islanders, it was just going to be a matter of a couple of days. But here we are a couple of weeks later, and they let him go. And they made it perfectly clear when they made their press release that it had nothing to do with performance-based. I think the quote from McCrimmon himself was something along the lines of, I think anybody would agree that his tenure here with the Vegas Golden Knights was very successful, which is a weird quote. And I have my own beliefs as to why that was said. I know it was hard for them to let him go, but clearly they need some sort of identity, as Foley said a couple of weeks ago in his interview. I believe it was something crazy like Variety or Business. It was a big name, right? Because this guy makes big bucks and he's a big deal. And he said, yeah, to be completely honest with you, I'm going to be very active and I'm going to fix the identity of this team. And basically from there on, they let him go. What do you think of this move? Why do you think they made this move? And do you think it's the right one?
Yeah, I mean, Vegas is, I feel like, used to turnover at this point, so it's nothing new. It's a situation that I think it's a combination of awkward seasons, underperformance, injuries, whatever you want to say. I just don't know if he's the right voice to be the guy to get them to where they need to be. And I think you have to kind of shake it up, because at what point are you putting the emphasis on the players when you look at it, there's like 3, maybe 4 guys left from the original expansion roster from 5 years ago. That includes the trades.
Right.
It's just, I think, a time to just go in a different direction. I don't think his style necessarily suited the Knights quite well. And I think that might have been a little bit to it also. But that's my take. You know more than I would.
Well, it makes me nervous because Trotz is a very similar style. And I was telling you that. You were kind of arguing a bit about that. It's a defense first mentality where you kind of rely on your blue line. Obviously, they have Shea Theodore, they have Alex Pietrangelo, Alec Martinez, they have McNabb. These guys that are veterans that have won cups, cups, multiple cups, and they're peppering it on, right? And it's not quality shots, it's not quality opportunities. It's just it's spray and pray mentality. And Barry Trotz would kind of make me nervous because I feel like it's a little bit of the same, and they might not have the right personnel to get the job done. My thing is, I don't think Pete DeBoer ever had that room. I don't think the players ever really wanted him there. And this is just pure speculation. They loved Gallant, right? And he was canned after basically like a 6-game losing streak, which happened multiple times during this past season. And one would have guessed why wouldn't you have let DeBoer go middle of the season? Shake it up then, right? And they held on to him until they absolutely couldn't anymore. And without dissecting it much further than that, I think that their reasoning is not necessarily to get a new voice in the room, because I think that they've been aware that they needed that for quite some time, but it might be to make certain players happy. Riley Smith is a free agent that has not negotiated his deal to our knowledge yet. They haven't announced him. Clearly the Robin Leonard situation is a question mark. They don't really know who's going to be their starting goalie next year. Like, if you brought Leonard and Thompson both back and you had DeBoer coaching them along with Spots and the rest of their coaching staff, and you have the same guy, he's going to have the same take. He's really not going to be able to wipe his mind completely clean to the past and approach it as a new season. He's just not. And I think that to make all the players happy, make them all comfortable, and really feel like they're getting a clear slate with a healthy roster, the right move is to get a new coach in there. And Pete DeBoer kind of had to be the one that had to take the grenade, if you will, in that situation. It just never felt right, because he was the coach of their number one rival, and that just always felt weird for me as a fan. Can only imagine how that felt in the locker room.
Not only that, I mean, side note, it's Jack Eichel's seventh coach in his 7th year. So take that for what it's worth, but just something to keep an eye on. Gonna make somebody happy. It's probably some guy like that.
Yeah, I don't think Jack Eichel had enough time there to really get rubbed the wrong way. If it had been another season or even half season, I could understand that. I think this move was made purely to make certain individuals that were on the roster or are on the roster happy. That's why I'll leave it at that personally, because like I don't like to be out there spreading rumors, especially when it comes to that team. And let's not forget when I spread the rumor about Pat Maroon signing with Calgary and his brother chiming in, and we all know how that ended off because I was wrong. So we were very, very careful about these rumor situations. We just like to kind of give our opinions on pure facts, which by the way, Pat Maroon has now won 13 straight playoff series. Madness, absolute madness, just to add that. But I don't want to steer too far from this. Also, Captain Mark Stone, he's finally getting the back surgery he probably should have gotten months ago. They put it off as long as they could. He was seeing a specialist. He's probably going to see a chiropractor, dealing with all kinds of different treatments. And eventually he figured out, hey, I'm just going to get this taken care of in the offseason. This is the longest offseason the Vegas Golden Knights have had since being a team. I hope he comes back 100%. I really do, because it was obvious that he wasn't comfortable out there towards the end.
Yeah. Back injuries can be tricky also. So hopefully there's enough time to where he can have the surgery, get the rehab in he needs, and be 100% going into the year. Otherwise, it's going to be, who knows for him, at least next year. But you hope that the timeline's good and everything is good with that for sure. You never want to see a player hurt long term.
Well, and they think he's going to be back in time for training camp, which is interesting because when you think back surgery, you think of basically what Jack Eichel went through, 5 to 6 months worth of rehabilitation after a major surgery. So hopefully, Eichel referred him to his doctor, because Jack looked amazing. I do want to chime in on that. We won't need to talk much, but people shitting on Jack Eichel when he got 15 points in 19 games towards the end with a broken thumb. And everyone's like, boo hoo, excuse. Dude, try to play with a broken thumb. Try to do anything with try to jerk off with a broken thumb. It's impossible. Like it's not going to go flawlessly, especially something that you've learned your entire life how to do. Play, like the guy needs that hand to play hockey properly. And the fact that he played through that injury because they had no other fucking choice and still managed to be almost a point per game player, I think is impressive. So
it makes total sense, because I was joking about it too, where his goals that he had, or maybe outside of a couple, he didn't shoot the puck. It was like he picked up the rebound, or here's my stick, let me tip it in, deflection type stuff. And that makes sense, but just what it had.
Yeah. So they'll come back healthy. They're going to have more's going to come, more changes are going to happen. We still don't know who's going to be coaching the squad. We really don't know who's going to be the starting goaltender. Always exciting to be a Golden Knights fan, to say the least. But yeah, as far as our round 1 choices, you were off by 2. You said that the Pens were going to take it. They almost did, got down to the wire. And as you said to me, it took a third string goalie, bunch of beaten up guys to make that happen. And if you were the Rangers coach, you wouldn't be happy. So with that being said, moving forward, how do you feel about them with Carolina?
It's hard not to pick Carolina, if I'm being honest. I mean, as a Rangers fan, like, yeah, you're stoked you came back from a 3-run deficit and you're going into round 2. But looking at it from a more generalized approach, it's you beat a third string goalie and then a goalie that came back and hasn't played over a month with still seriously injured broken foot. Sturkin had a 3.66 goals against average. Sure, you outscored his problem. Do you think that's going to hold up going forward? I don't know. Am I excited about the Tony DeAngelo storyline there? Absolutely.
Wait. What do you mean absolutely? You're happy for the guy?
I'm excited about the storyline. He used to be a Ranger.
Fuck that.
He used to be a Ranger.
That's
what I mean. That's what I mean. The animosity.
I'm
not happy for him.
Okay, good.
I'm happy for the drama that can come from that.
Okay, fair. Yeah, he's going to, every time he touches the puck, he's going to be booed way more than Brad Marchand was in that last series. And with good fucking reason. The guy's Honestly, I'm just not even to beat around the bush. He's a piece of shit. Like the guy's not tight. I can't believe he's still in the league. And for that reason alone, don't want to see them advance. I think it's interesting that you flip-flopped. You thought the Bruins could beat them, but now you're saying that the Rangers can't. So you're going to go Carolina on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Bruins played a pretty solid series, I feel like, where the Rangers, assuming Jari's healthy, assuming Crosby doesn't get injured, assuming the next guy where the guy's helmets get taken off of his head, that should be a penalty, understands the rule and doesn't have to leave the ice.
Yeah.
I'm not happy if I'm a Rangers fan about our chances going forward personally. And I'm not saying that because I hate the Rangers. I really am indifferent towards them. Just what positives do you have that come from that series besides, oh, Panarin showed up in a big game. Cool. And our team rallied back from 3-1 against AHL caliber goaltender. Quite honestly, sorry, Louis Domingue, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So my thing with Louis Domingue is he catches right. And I think it threw them off because he was the third string goalie and they weren't very prepared for that. There were a lot of instances in which Zibanejad had a wide open net or per se anybody, and he was able to glove it instead of it being just a blocker that probably would have sailed underneath. I know excuses, but that's a weird thing to deal with. Like
NHL caliber players, you should be able to make an adjustment. It's not
well, like and they did. They did. It just took them time. I was saying that for a long time. I said they figured out Domingue, whatever his name is. They figured him out. It just took him some time, and that last game threw him off too because it's Yari, and he's gonna be Yari, right? He's a big guy, plays a big game, and you're throwing in a goalie in Game 7 that you haven't played yet, and yeah, I don't know. It very very fun series, and that Game 7 was the most watched Game 7 in NHL history, which is insane, right? You got to think like that didn't even seem right when I sent that stat over. I was like, what about like a Game 7 Stanley Cup final? Like, did it really beat out this situation? I don't know. Apparently
I think it was specifically the most watched first round game.
Okay, first round.
That's my understanding.
Okay, yeah, because Game 7 Stanley Cup final that's insane. It shouldn't even compete with that. Here's my take on the Hurricanes, and we were both wrong. Let's make note of that. We picked the Bruins to win, and if I stand by this, if Jeremy Swayman had started Game 1 and not Markstrom, you can't really blame it all on a goalie. I think we would have seen a much different outcome. Personally, I think Swayman played out of his mind in that series, and moving forward, that's definitely something that they need to consider.
Yeah, he's 23, so if you're going to consider it, I think now's the time. I mean, they have Ullmark as well, so that's a different thing for them to discuss, but I don't disagree with you. But it's a tough series. I honestly, after even when they tied it up, I was like, I don't know. I still, at that point, I still didn't have a lot of faith in the Bruins. And I feel like later in the series, the Hurricanes kind of more imposed their will than the Bruins did. Obviously, that's why they won. But yeah, that's my take. But also,
everybody that doubted us can fucking fuck off, though. It went Game 7.
A lot of people were like 4 and 5.
Yeah, let's be real. That was a hard fought series, and if Jeremy Swayman was first in net, I really do think we would have had a different outcome. So with that being said, moving forward, you know where I'm at. Rangers all the way, baby. And I think Shesterkin finally warmed up. There was a weird stat. It was after the first period, he was like lights out. So basically, these goals were coming very early, and I don't know if it's his nerves, if he just doesn't have that kind of experience, whatever the deal is, but I think he's warmed up. I think that was a big win. You know what? Hey, while we're talking about this, do you think that goal was high sticking or not? Was that Gensel that kicked the puck up and then knocked it out of the air?
It's awkward because like the way I saw it, it was like half the puck was above the crossbar and half the puck wasn't, and like where did he actually hit the damn thing? And it's one of those things that's like my immediate thought was like, whatever calls on the ice, there's not overturning it. That's what's sticking. There's just not enough clear-cut evidence to overturn it. So if they called no goal, it would have been no goal. If they called goal, it was goal. They called goal, and that's it. I personally couldn't. I still don't know exactly 100% where he makes contact with the puck. But again, there's no defined rule about that. If this much of the puck is underneath the crossbar, but he hits the top part of the puck, is that considered under the crossbar? Like, is this an offsides thing? Like how does this all play out? It's not defined. So I think because of that too, like there's no way to rule what was called overrule. Sorry, what was called on the ice. So
give him the fucking goal though. Like one of the most insane goals I think I've ever seen in playoff hockey in general, to kick it to himself and knock it out of the air.
Nasty.
Like, I mean, give it to him just strictly based on that alone. That ref was probably like, holy fucking shit, good goal. Let's fucking go. And as you said, it's hard to overturn. Which, by the way, I love how they have that funny ass angle where they say they're in Toronto. And I don't know if this is actually in Toronto, but they're like all the angles, right? And I feel like it's like a weird Dr. Evil thing where it looks like an evil lair where they're deciding whether or not this goal counts. I don't know if that's actually in Toronto or not, but I love that little addition to it. Seems like a deal or no deal, right? Where they call the guy and they're like, and he's like, oh, he's the boss and he's going to give you an offer. That's kind of the vibe I got from that.
100%. I wanted to say before we moved on, because it's worth noting as well, fucking Jake Oettinger out of his mind. Obviously lost to the Flames in 7 games. Dude had a .953 save percentage in 7 games, which I believe is the highest save percentage in a round for a goalie that's played the whole series ever. And he lost, which is nuts. So props to him. I think it's safe to say, assuming he stays where he's at, no one's going to miss Ben Bishop down there.
Yeah, Jake Oettinger is nuts. Like that. Yeah. That was just wild. Like, I think everybody agrees that. But how are you going to win a game when you had like 19 shots on goal?
Only...
It was under 20 or something like that in overtime. Like ridiculous.
Yeah, the only so from a entire series performance, I don't think I've seen a better goaltending performance. I think the only individual performance that comes to mind that takes the cake for me, and you're not going to like it, is the Demko situation against the Knights. Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, he was a madman. But once again, the Knights had horrible quality shots. It's a weird, shitty stat because quality over quantity, right? That's just how it works. That's what kept the Dallas Stars in the game for as long as they did, because they had Robertson fucking sinking shit, and I think even Jamie Benn had a decent shot on net. So at the end of the day, you could fire, I think it was over 120 shot attempts on him. It was just insane. And then
the Calgary fans with the voodoo magic next to the bench.
Dude, I love that so much. I call them the children, the goblin children. I said the goblin children casted their
the offspring of the great Cornholio, in all honesty.
They look like the the Ewoks from Star Wars with their beady little eyes underneath their hoods. I gave that quote from Role Models. I said that they casted the spell of unbreakable madness. It just reminded me of LARPing and role playing, but I loved it. And clearly it fucking worked. It got to him. It got to Oettinger, and he lost the game. So they should get the assist.
Yeah, fair.
The Goblin children for the assist for sure.
Fair. So we're on that topic. So you have Rangers. We'll go back to the playoff for round 2. You have Rangers. I got Hurricanes.
Okay.
I don't want to go D'Angelo by any means. I just don't personally see it. But moving on, we brought it up. Flames, Dallas. Let's move to it. Battle of Alberta. First time in 30 years, I think, that it's happened, or right at the 30-year mark since this has happened in the playoffs. As crazy as it sounds, I'm not hyped. I don't know if it's going to live up to it.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's not going to get bloody. Like, I mean, Cassian has basically been a ghost. I remember there was a stat from World Hockey Report. Shout out to our guys. They said that Connor McDavid was leading the team in hits last series. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Which, it's hard to believe that Tortorella didn't get under his skin a little bit, because Connor McDavid had himself a series, 14 fucking points in 7 games, like finally showing up, when they need him to. It's beautiful. I don't think it's going to be crazy. And on top of that, you have a high ankle sprain from Draisaitl, which is like automatically bad. Do you sit him the first game or two and hope he comes back full strength? Right. Or do you get him at like 65% and hope it works? Either way, my prediction is Calgary, and I don't even think it's going to be as impressive as we think it is. I think 6, like max. Part of me even thinks 5. I just don't see Edmonton competing with this, even with McDavid firing on all cylinders, because now you got Johnny Gaudreau, who's finally being that postseason hero. So yeah, my prediction is definitely the Flames. And it's because I don't think that aggressiveness is really going to be a factor.
Yeah. Side note, I was looking this up and it's pissing me off that it's happening. They don't track, they track hits during the game, but you go to the individual player stat page now, you can't find stats anywhere.
Yeah, they don't have it on. I saw it. It's not on NHL. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure. At least unless they're lying to us, that they said Connor McDavid was leading the team in hits at that point when it was in Game 7.
I could easily go back and look at it, but
I mean, at that point, what is Zach Cassian fucking doing, right? And then what is Lucic even doing, like for his team? I mean, like at this point, we're seeing that playoff is more about.
Lucic had an assist. Cassian had a goal and assist, but again, I just don't. The only X factor for me is how much does Matthew Tkachuk get under the Oilers?
I was gonna say
with Cassian
or play or fucking do anything because he's got 4 assists in 7 games. He's got to show up.
He should. I mean, he scored Game 7 for what it's worth.
Oh, he did. Okay,
he got the monkey off his back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was that fucking snipe. So maybe he opened it back up too. So where are you at with that though?
It's very conflicting. I'm going Flames. I don't know if I can trust Mike Smith in this round. Like he already showed he can't be trusted in a few ways last round. I don't know if I can trust him into this round. And Markstrom is fucking Markstrom. He had almost
8 shutouts.
He had a hell of a first round as well. I think he went 4-3, obviously 7 games, 1.53 goals against and a 0.943 save percentage. Like gaudy numbers. Granted, that series was low scoring, but I just don't know if I can take Mike Smith going to the Western Conference Finals. That'd be mind blowing to me.
I don't see it either, so I'm with you on that for sure. And moving on, we have Blues versus Avs, and the Avs are a massive favorite, massive, and I think that's fucking stupid. And that's coming from a person that really doesn't have a dog in the fight anymore. Said from the very beginning, I was with you along the way. I know people were chirping me. They're like, oh, well, what team are you cheering for? It's like, dude, it's playoff hockey. I'm cheering for basically any team that I don't want to win, and I don't want the Avs to win. I don't think they're any scarier than they were last season. And I think the Blues, were they 9, as you said, 20 goal scorers?
So
like that's insane.
I put together something and I'm bummed it didn't get any traction, but it was like, I just don't see the mass disparity here. So you have Team A, which Team A had this number 2 power play unit and the number 5 PK unit. The only team who was top 5 in both, mind you, all season. Scored 309 goals, only allowed 239 goals, had 9 players with 20 plus goals and 4 point per game players. That's Team A, pretty sick. Team B had the 7th best power play unit, so lesser there. The 15th best PK unit, so middle of the pack, lesser there. 308 goals for, 1 less than Team A, and 232 goals against, 7 less than Team A. Team B also had 7 players with 20 plus goals. They had 5 players who were point per game players. Team A is the Blues with better special teams, more scoring, slightly less defense, slightly less on the defense side, which you could easily attribute to Binnington, etc. And the depth is there on both sides. Like, I understand that the Avalanche won the conference. I understand that, they have star power like Makar and McKinnon and Landeskog and Rantanen, and Kadri's having an fucking stellar year. Like, that being said, just look at the stats on paper and take names out of it. Like, I just don't see it. It just blows my mind. Like, I'd be very shocked if the series doesn't go 6 or 7 games either way. And in my opinion, obviously I'm pulling for the Blues, and rightfully so, but I just don't see it.
I'm going Blues. Are you? So you're telling me you're going Blues, right?
I'm similar to, I think, what Ryan Whitney said. I think the winner of this series wins the cup, barring, the only exception would be is if they just get absolutely physical and you have something where like Makar can't, is iffy, or McKinnon's iffy, or O'Reilly and Falk are, banged up going into that 3rd round. It's possible.
Yeah, the Blues have already dealt with being injured, so that is a big question mark. And plus, Binnington Is he? I mean, is he the man? I mean, are you gonna have to turn to Huso again? That's a little bit more of a question mark. I say Blues in 7. I think it'll go the distance. I don't think it'll be quite as shocking as the Knights last year. And this is going to be one of those things where everyone's going to call us stupid, like that are not Blues fans. But yeah, I think if it goes the distance and everything lines up the way it is, I think it's the Blues. I really do. I don't think the Avs have what it takes.
So my only concern is I think if the Blues win, it has to be in 6 with the mile high altitude and having to go back there for a 7th game. I just don't know if the gas will be in the tank if you get it to a game 7, or you don't win it in 6 and you have the chance to, whatever the case may be. So if the Blues win, my opinion, it's in 6. Cool. Otherwise, any other outcome I think is the Avs.
Ooh. Okay, but what's your final answer though?
A Blues in 6 is obviously
okay. So
bias.
But, yeah, but no. But removing bias, we have to put our picks here. You're in it on Blues.
Still, I get the statistics I pointed out. Like I just don't see it. I don't see the disparity that everyone else.
I'm with you. I think it's going to be the Blues as well. Personally.
So the only one we didn't touch on was Panthers Lightning.
Yeah. So.
For what it's worth,
what's going on right now?
So what it's worth,
it's going on while we're recording this game 1.
The third period just started. It's 1-1. 1-1.
Oh, 1-1. Okay.
So, Ducks legend Corey Perry scored, and then Duclair scored, I believe, for the Panthers. For what it's worth, both even strength goals. Or excuse me, Tampa's was a power play goal.
Ooh.
But
okay,
yeah,
and their power play scary as fuck for sure.
1-1. Florida obviously has home ice. What are you thinking?
I think it goes to Florida. I truthfully do. The big X factor is Braden Point. Suffered that really bad injury last game. Looked bad. He tried to fight through it. I don't know if he's playing right now, but he tried to play and he was wincing. And I know it was very highly doubtful whether he would. Yeah, playing. He's not playing, and he's like their guy, man. He's like the diamond in the rough. He's a guy that you didn't expect to score that many goals, and he's just fast. He's a fucking freak.
Lightning are going 11-7 today too. 11 forward, 7 D.
Yeah. But also being said, the Florida Panthers have a horrendous power play, if I remember correctly. It's horrible.
It's 0 for 18.
Yeah.
From the first round. They're 0 for 2 today, so it's 0 for 20.
Yeah.
And I think what's crazy is I think they had a top 5 unit in the regular season, which is even more astounding if my memory serves me correctly. But it's just I don't know. I don't know how you go for 18 in a series and win, if I'm being honest. But fuck if I know.
So what's your prediction on it then?
Assuming Bobrovsky doesn't shit the bed, I say Panthers in 7.
So are we in a complete agreement? Were you 4 for 4?
So we're Flames, we're Blues. No. We're different with Rangers, Hurricanes. That's different.
Rangers and Hurricanes again. Yeah. Okay, cool. So keep it a little bit exciting. There you go. So that's our predictions for round 2. We did pretty well round 1. We appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't went back and listened to that episode, please do. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that great stuff. We want to answer a couple questions before we end this episode. It's a little longer than we normally do, but we really appreciate your support. We want to make sure you get to as many people as we can. World Hockey Report. What's up, guys? Who do you think will coach the VGK? As we heard today, Barry Trotz is pretty much pinpointed potentially to Winnipeg. He's going to interview everywhere. Part of me thinks it might be just hardball, maybe. But Barry Trotz makes way too much sense because he won the cup in your barn. I don't think they're going to settle for anything less than a guy that's won a cup. Why fire DeBoer? I think it's going to be Trotz personally. They could just go middle fingers to the sky and say, we're going to hire Joe Quenneville, which would be insane because I do truthfully believe a lot of people deserve second chances in life. I don't know if it needs to be this soon. It's kind of the same way that I believe that Tony DeAngelo needs to keep grinding in the league and showing he's a decent human being before he wins a cup. So part of me doesn't really want to see that, but yeah, dude, it just makes too much sense for it to not be Trotz, in my opinion.
Trotz is from Winnipeg. I mean, I feel like it's always been it'd be a dream to coach your, I don't know, I don't want to say childhood team because I moved to Arizona, but to coach the team in your hometown. That's one thing too. I think the other thing to consider is like there's big openings too. You have the Islanders to work under Lou Lamoriello is pretty sick opportunity. Granted, it's not going to be Trotz. You have the Red Wings and their storied franchise and be able to turn that around further with Stevie Yzerman. You have the Knights, you have the Flyers. There's a few openings here. So it's not like it's even big teams. It's not like you're just competing against like smaller markets. Like the Jets, you have the Flyers, you have the Islanders, you have the star power on the executive front too. And some of those teams to woo you, if you will. And I think the other thing that's tricky as well is the Stars with Rick Bowness. He's pretty damn old. He might be out. I think his deal's up, but I don't know if he's going to be back there. So that's another potential vacancy. I personally said what I would love as a fan that just wants to see the world burn. I would love to see Mike Yeo end up as coach of the Golden Knights.
Fuck you on that. You just want
to,
you want to see me fucking on the ledge with my dick in my hand and a fucking noose around my neck. That's what you want to see.
Like the way I see it is,
guy's not a winner. He's not a winner. I don't even think he's got a job in this league. Personally,
you've had some pretty high caliber in terms of names, coaches that have come to the Knights and haven't done well. Maybe you go a different direction. That's my thinking.
I think that's important. I think that's a great thing too, because I'm a little nervous about Trotz, like in his approach to the game. I think that the Knights need to remember what it's like to have fun again. They were the most successful when they were doubted the most, and they bonded the most, and they need to work on that. They need to let players like William Karlsson explore more offensively. Reminds me a lot of like Cole Caulfield, right? Like they get rid of the coach in Montreal, and then he just starts lighting up the lamp. I just think you need creativity. You need to let these guys. I'm a peacock, Captain. You got to let me fly.
So what I think would be the biggest shock in the world outside of Quenneville for the wrong reasons, because fuck that guy for just hiding whatever happened there. Imagine Mike Babcock in Vegas.
Yeah,
think about that.
I saw Babcock as mentioned, and then obviously where I'm at, which is funny that I want somebody to come in and have fun, and here I'm going to preach Tortorella. I think would be an amazing. I just think he's an amazing coach. Like I think he shows a lot of passion and a lot. They need to have somebody in that locker room that they believe in, and he might come in and be like, "Hey, I'm fucking awesome. Let's do this together." Right. I don't know. He's had some time off, so we'll see.
My dark horse would be Claude Julien. Personally.
Oh, okay.
Like
from the Habs.
He the Bruins and the Habs. The Habs fired him within a playoff spot. It was like fucking weird.
Yeah.
Really weird situation. I think like at the time, like analytically, they were like the best 5-on-5 team in hockey, and you can your coach. Like the fuck. That would be a cool one, personally. That's who if I had to choose someone who's not like a big name, I think that's the guy I'd want.
Okay. One more question from the Brian Lewis on Twitter. He said the Buffalo Sabres return to playoff next year, yes or no? I think it's hard to say no. They had one of the best records towards the last stretch of the regular season. Adding Alex Tuck and Peyton Krebs was huge. And, getting rid of a guy like Jack Eichel that wasn't very happy in his situation and having a reason to rally behind it was great. Got Jeff Skinner lining it up. The only question mark is who's going to be in net. Are you going to put Craig Anderson in net at 41 years old? I mean, I don't know. He did play okay, but you're going to have to at least upgrade your goaltending, I feel like, to be a contender. But I think they might be able to bump. They might be able to slip in.
I don't see it. There's still too much disparity between the top 8 and the bottom 8 in the East. Like we saw it in the standings. It was pretty nuts, I think, where it was there was like a 16-point differential between the bottom seed or the 8th seed and the 9th seed, which is insane. And you look at like the West, where there was a 3-point differential between the Predators and the Knights. There's too big of a gap there right now. The Islanders aren't getting better. The Blue Jackets aren't getting better. If I had to pick a team, honestly, in the bottom 6 that has a chance of making playoffs next year, my money's on the Red Wings, personally.
I could see that. But another thing you have to consider too is the Penguins. Like, what are they going to look like next year? You might be losing Rust.
Concerned.
You might be losing Rust, Malkin, Letang. You pissed off Crosby. Yari's got a busted foot. You don't know what the state of DeSmith is. I don't know. I can see the Penguins missing.
The Penguins lose Letang, Rust, and Malkin.
They're out. They're not making playoffs unless they somehow pick up these guys like random replacements.
They have that gives them what, 20 million in cap space.
Well, I mean, apparently they fucking offered them each basically three by fives.
I'm aware of that. Yeah, but I don't foresee. You piss off Sidney Crosby, he's still with their team. He's not going anywhere.
Right.
He wants them to make a push for these guys, keep the band together. That's a maybe. But you're telling me that the Penguins, with their window closing and having Crosby in his prime for at least one more year, possibly two, assuming all's good on his front. No way they're not making playoffs next year.
I wouldn't be surprised, is all I'm saying. And I think we're going to see a good push from the Sabres next year, having that
too
identity.
Many bottom feeders in the East for those teams not to make it, in my opinion.
Fair. All right. So before we wrap up, we want to thank you guys so much for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. That's the most important to us, trying to grow our YouTube channel. Add us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that great shit. But I'm going to conclude this episode with a question to you, Tommy, because I was arguing with a buddy of mine. We were arguing whether or not we think the odds are more in favor of Marc-Andre Fleury signing back in Vegas, or is he going to sign back in Pittsburgh? If you had to place a bet, where's your money going? Where do you think he's going to end up? If there's a possibility of either of them.
If the possibility is there, I'm just looking at cap stuff quickly, and in terms of who's on the chart, my money's on Pittsburgh. But that's my take. To have to think of getting rid of Leonard or pissing him off even further.
Yeah, you got to move Leonard if you're going to pick up. You got to move Leonard if you're going to pick up Fleury. That's the only thing. But I would say there's a better chance he comes back to Vegas, and I'm trying to remove the bias. Obviously, I got my chance back here, and I'm a big ass fan. I get it, but trying to remove bias. I think he wants to retire here. I think he wants to have a job in the office. Fingers crossed he comes back, and if not, then moving forward. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.
Later, everyone.